Hazrat Abdullah bin Abbas radiyallahu anhu reports, I was curious to ask Hazrat Umar radiyallahu anhu about those two wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, about which Allah Jalla Jalaluhu said, if you two wives of the Prophet turn towards Allah, that is well, your hearts are necessarily deviated from the path. I performed Hajj along with him. He went aside to relieve himself. So I also went aside along with him, carrying a bottle of water. When he had relieved himself, I poured water on his hands from the bottle, and he radiyallahu anhu performed ablution. Then I said, O chief of the believers, who are the two of the Prophet's wives about whom Allah has said, if you two wives of the Prophet turn towards Allah, for your hearts are necessarily deviated from the path? He said, I am amazed at you, your question. They were Aisha and Hafsa. Then Hazrat Umar radiyallahu anhu narrated the complete incidents. I and my Ansari neighbor would live in Banu Umayyah bin Zayd, an extension of Madinah Munawwara, and we would visit the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in turn. He would go one day and I on the other. When I would go, I would bring him to report of what all happened that day. And when he would go, he would do the same. We, the Quraysh, were dominating over the women. When we came to Ansar, they were the people of those wives enjoyed authority over them. So our women also started assuming their ways. Once I reprimanded my wife. She whereupon also bandied words with me. When I got offended at it, she said, you dislike my answering you back, whereas by Allah, the Prophet's wives answer him back, and someone of them remains aloof from him the whole day long till night. I got embarrassed and said, whosoever has done so is supreme loser. Then I got attired and went to Hafsa and said, O Hafsa, does any one of you keep Allah's Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam displeased for the whole day till night? She replied, yes. I said, she is definitely a loser. Don't you fear that Allah may get displeased with whom Allah's Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam is displeased? Thus you will be ruined, eschew talking too much before Allah's Apostle, answering him back and deserting him, and ask me for whatever you want, and do not imitate your neighbor because she is prettier than you and dearer to Allah's Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I meant Aisha radiyallahu anha. In those days we were also discussing that the people of Ghassan were showing their horses. My companion on the day of turn returned at the time of the Isha prayer and knocked at my door violently and said, is he sleeping? I came out to him embarrassed. He said, a great thing has happened. I said, what has happened? Have the Ghassani come? He said, no, but a more serious thing than it, because Allah's Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam has divorced his wives. I said, it is a great loss of Hafsa, and I had apprehension that it would definitely happen. I dressed myself and performed the Fajr prayer along with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam entered his attic where he was living alone. I went to Hafsa and she was weeping. I said, why do you weep? Did not I ask you to shun these activities? Has Allah's Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam divorced? She said, I do not know. He is now in the attic. I came out and went near the pulpit. Some people had assembled around it and some were weeping. I sat along with them for a while. Then I was overcome by grief and came near the attic inside which he sallallahu alaihi wasallam was. I said to a Negro slave, seek permission for Umar. He came back after having a discussion with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said, I told him about you, but he remained quiet. I came back and sat near the people sitting by the pulpit. When the agony struck me again, I went there and same happened. So I sat with the group that was sitting beside the pulpit. Then grief overcame me, and I went to the slave for the third time and asked him to seek permission for Umar. He gave the same reply. I came back when all of a sudden the slave called me and said, Allah's Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam has accorded you the permission. I went to him while he was lying on a mat. There was nothing in between him and the mat. The impression of the mat was visible on his body. He ﷺ had reclined against a leather pillow stuffed with the bark of date palm. I greeted him and then said standing, "Have you divorced your wives?" He ﷺ raised his gaze to me and said, "No." Then just to console him, I said standing, "O Allah's Apostle ﷺ, you see, we the Quraysh were dominant over our wives. We came to the people who are under the domination of their wives." Then he narrated the remaining episode. So the Prophet ﷺ smiled. Then I said, "Would that you had seen when I went to Hafsa and said to her, 'You must not get displeased, as your neighbor is prettier than you are and dearer to the Prophet ﷺ.' I meant Aisha." He smiled again. When I saw him smiling, I sat down. I glanced at the room, so by Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, I did not see anything save 3 skins. I submitted, "Invoke Allah Jalla Jalaluhu for making your ummah prosperous, because the Persians and the Romans are extremely affluent, though they do not worship Allah Jalla Jalaluhu." He was in reclined posture and said, "O the son of Khattab, do you have any doubt that they are being rewarded for their good deeds right in this world?" I submitted, "O Allah's Apostle ﷺ, supplicate Allah Jalla Jalaluhu for my pardon." The matter was this: the Prophet ﷺ went into the seclusion due to a secret which Hazrat Hafsa radiallahu anha had told Aisha radiallahu anha, owing to extreme grief. He ﷺ, when admonished by Allah Almighty, said, "I will not go to them for a month." When 29 days had passed, he ﷺ first of all went to Hazrat Aisha radiallahu anha. Hazrat Aisha radiallahu anha said, "You took an oath not to visit us for a month, but I kept on counting days, and now only 29 days have gone." The Prophet ﷺ said, "A month is of 29 days too, and it is a month of 29 days. Hazrat Aisha radiallahu anha says, when the words of granting option was revealed, he ﷺ commencing from me said, "I am about to tell you something, so be not hasty, but consult your parents." She says, "I knew that my parents would not ask me to get separation." Then he ﷺ said that Allah Almighty said, "O the communicator of unseen prophets, say to your wives, if you wish the life of the world and its adornment, then come, I provide you wealth and leave you in a well manner. And if you wish Allah and His Apostle and the home of the hereafter, then undoubtedly Allah has kept prepared for the well-doers among you a great reward." I submitted, "What should I consult with my parents about it? Verily, I intend to choose Allah, His Apostle, and an abode of the hereafter." Then he ﷺ gave option to all other his wives, and they did like Hazrat Aisha radiallahu anha. Sahih Bukhari, Hadith number 2468.